the tattoo scene at the time there? Was it tattoos were already really popular at the time, or is it something that really happened like throughout the 90s or early 2000s? You know, it's like, were you at the forefront of what was happening, or they were already quite consolidated? Because US has a longer history, for example, than Europe in terms of tattooing. You know,
well,
it's
in the early 90s, the magazines started really promoting you know, different artists, different styles of tattooing, and it started happening real rapidly. And because of the tattoo magazines, you know, and this is like pre-internet, basically. I mean, the internet was
exactly
kind of a thing, but not like it is now. You know, so most of our exchange of information and styles was based on what the magazines were publishing. You know, to see new photos, new things, and you know, the public started getting more interested in tattooing as a medium because of you know, because the quality was going up in what tattooing was as a medium, and it was being showcased through, you know, through these magazines and through you know, television documentaries, and you know, it just started exploding in the early 90s. And you know, a lot of that was due to really talented artists coming into you know, the tattoo scene. You know, people like Hardy that were putting out you know, really nice quality books, you know, on the tattoo subject matter. You know, Schiffer Publishing was early in on that. You know, so all of it was starting to create a lot more impressions to a public. When I first started going to the tattoo conventions, they were mostly just small airport hotel kind of events. It was mostly tattooers getting tattooed by more famous tattooers. There was, you know, collectors that were coming to get it, and then a little bit of the public, but it wasn't really advertised as heavy to the public. It was more of
as
like
as
it is now. And the Philadelphia show, the first one was 50 booths, and out of that,
the first one by Eddie.
Yeah, the first one by Eddie. And I would say that artist list, at least a third, almost half of that artist list has passed away now.
Wow.
You know,
and that's only 24 years ago.
22 years later. 1999 was the first Philly show. But I'd been going to the shows for, you know, since 93, you know, visiting a lot of them. You know, I think the biggest one back in the 90s was that Houston, Texas, Dave Yurku's second one in 96. And that, you know, that one was probably maybe 100 booths, you know, and there weren't nearly as many tattooers back then either. So
no, exactly.
You know,
yeah.
You know, the Richmond show was a really big one every year. You know, through the 90s, like everyone on the East Coast came to the Richmond show once a year. You know, Billy Easton, you know, promoted that one for quite a while. And then there was like National was doing one.
The National, yeah.
In different cities. So National would do, you know, one a year, and they just kept changing cities to, you know, create a theme.
So in the 90s, how many? Sorry, in the 90s, how many tattoo conventions you had in US, more or less, like regular conventions that you remember?
Regular conventions in the 90s, I would say, I mean, Dennis Dwyer and JD Crow used to run one a year. There was a couple one-offs. National ran one a year. And then there was kind of a couple others, like, you know, Tramp was running Detroit pretty early back then. You know, there was a couple, but I'd say maybe there wasn't one a month. You know, maybe every other month there was one somewhere in the country.
So maybe if that 5 to 10 a year or something.
Yeah, 5 to 10 a year probably back in the mid 90s to late 90s. You know, I think toward the end of the 90s, there like they started, you know, rearing up a little bit more.